Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into the massive shockwaves hitting global shipping. We're going to see how huge worldwide trends, everything from fuel prices to port backups, are colliding with a very unique geopolitical crisis, creating what you might call a perfect storm for one market in particular, Israel.
To really get what's happening right now, you have to picture this one core idea. The entire world's supply chain, it's on a roller coaster. The whole system is just being defined by volatility and, uncertainty. And for everyone involved, that ride is getting a whole lot bumpier.
All right, so here's our game plan. We're going to start with the big picture, feel out the global economic pulse. Then we'll zoom into the skies, check out air freight around the world, before focusing right in on the pressures in Israel. After that, we'll do the exact same thing for the oceans, before we try and figure out, what's next.
First things first, we have to look at the engine that drives all of this, the global economy. This is the background music that sets the tone for every single shipment, whether it's by air or by sea. So on the surface, things look kind of okay. The global economy is still chugging along, and the forecast for 2025 has actually been upgraded to 2.4% growth. But, and this is a big but, don't get too comfortable. That same forecast is pointing to a clear slowdown in the second half of the year. It's a classic mixed signal, right? Things look all right now, but there are warning signs flashing for later.
And this, right here, is where you can literally see headlines turning into real-world costs. I mean, this is a perfect snapshot of cause and effect. Geopolitical tensions flare up in the Middle East, and boom, look at that spike in oil and jet fuel prices. Instantly, every single flight, everywhere on the planet, just got more expensive.
So, with those fuel costs on the rise, let's take to the skies and see how the global air freight industry is handling it all. Because, believe me, those prices are just the start of the turbulence. So how much stuff is actually flying around? Well, despite all the economic noise, global air cargo demand is up, but just a little bit. We're talking a modest 3.1%. And that small bump is almost entirely being propped up by very specific things, like the e-commerce boom on routes from Southeast Asia to the US. Now get this. This is one of those facts that will completely change how you think about air freight. Two-thirds of all air cargo doesn't fly on those big dedicated cargo planes. Nope. It flies in the belly of the passenger jet you might take on your next vacation. Just think about that for a second. It means the entire cargo supply chain is directly tied to passenger flight schedules. If people stop flying somewhere, so do the goods. Okay, so that's the global picture up in the air. But what happens when that system has to land in a region that's under enormous pressure? Let's zoom right in on the air bridge to Israel. Remember that small, modest global growth we just saw? Well, the story in Israel could not be more different. It's a completely different universe. The data since October 7th shows a really dramatic and sustained drop in both air imports and exports. The trend line here is, well, it's just unmistakable. So you have to ask, what is causing such a sharp drop? A huge piece of the puzzle is right here. A staggering 40% of all available cargo aircraft capacity in the region has been diverted away from commercial goods to transport military equipment instead. That one decision completely rewrites the rules for the entire market. And when you yank that much capacity out of the system, this is what happens. You get this cascade of consequences. Major airlines like Lufthansa suspend flights indefinitely. Timetables get longer and longer, and the price for what little space is left stays stubbornly high. For businesses trying to plan, it means uncertainty is the new normal. Okay, let's shift gears. We're leaving the skies behind and heading out into the vastness of the oceans, where a totally different but just as challenging set of problems are brewing.
So on the water, there is a little bit of good news. Ships are getting better at showing up on time. Reliability is up to nearly 66%. But let's just flip that number around for a second. It still means that 1 out of every 3 container ships on the entire planet arrives late. In a system that's built on precision timing, that is still a huge margin of error.
But here is the massive operational headache that is just plaguing the entire shipping industry. Look at this imbalance. The number of empty containers that need to be shipped back to where they came from has surged by almost 41%. At the same time, shipments of full containers are only up about 10%. That mismatch creates these epic logistical traffic jams and all these hidden costs that eventually get passed on to all of us. So what's the industry solution to all this? Build bigger ships. A lot of them. Companies have ordered enough new vessels to carry a mind-boggling 7.8 million containers. It's a huge bet on the future, but how and when this new capacity will actually solve the gridlock we're seeing right now, well, that's a huge question mark.
Now, let's bring it all back home. We're going to Israel's shores to see how these big, global ocean trends get massively complicated by very specific local challenges. So, if Israel's air bridge is under pressure, its seaports are fighting a battle on all fronts. I mean, first, you've got Houthi attacks in the Red Sea, forcing ships to take those long, expensive detours all the way around Africa. Then you have political decisions, like Turkey suspending key shipping lanes. Add on top of that, departure delays from local ports like Haifa, plus a ripple effect from congestion in Northern Europe, and you've got a true perfect storm of disruption at sea.
Now, you'd think with all that chaos, shipping prices would be going through the roof, right? Well, this is where it gets a little weird. For imports coming from the Far East, prices are actually decreasing because shipping lines are struggling to fill their ships on those new, longer routes. Meanwhile, export rates are holding steady. It's just a fascinating example of how strange supply and demand can get under pressure. So, from the air to the sea, from global trends to local crises, we've seen just how fragile and interconnected these systems really are. So what's the one big thing you should take away from all of this?
If there's one thing to take away, it's this. In global trade today, the most valuable commodity isn't just what's inside the container anymore. It's resilience. It's the ability to adapt, to withstand these shocks. And that leaves us all with a critical and pretty tough question for the future. In a world that seems to be creating more choke points, not fewer, is a truly resilient global supply chain even possible anymore?